This pretty good coverage is brought to you by Power Grip, the official retail partner of the European Pro Tour.
Hello and welcome to the exciting conclusion of the EPT All-Stars here in Mijas, Spain. We're very excited to bring you this round 3 back 9 FPO lead card coverage brought to you by MDG Media. With only 9 holes remaining, we will soon crown your European Pro Tour All-Star in the FPO division. I'm Connor Wood, happy to be bringing you the action and very exciting conclusion to the season here in Europe as we take a look at the standings going into the final 9 holes. Jenni so far with a roller coaster of a round, but enough to keep her in that first place position with 1 under par. Kielas directly behind her at 2 over, Rachel behind her 3 strokes at 5 over, and rounding out our lead card, Sanna, Ahlgrén. I think these top 3 players separating themselves a little bit from the field, and I'd say all 3 positions still very much in play on the podium, knowing how this course is able to separate players in strokes. We kick it off here. Hole 10, a 90-meter par 3, slightly uphill in terms of the basket placement to the tee, but initially throwing over this valley. A lot of players will opt to just bomb these 2 guardian trees to the right and hope to filter through. Very common. If you come up a little bit short and left of the basket, you have a safer putt. If you go past it, you have a very precarious death putt, as you see that basket perched right on the edge. Once again, a very treacherous green. Very common here for this course in Mijas. Marie getting us started on the back 9. Oh, and an incredible throw, unclear how close she was to that guardian, but fading just before it. Ton of pace. She is right up there in the ideal position. We see Rachel just trying to crash on through. And a similar outcome to round 2. I think she'll be slightly compromised in her line to the basket as well as potentially her footing. We see Jenni here, currently our leader, playing the understability, gets it hyzer at the basket, flips up to flat, fades out a little bit early and gets our cameraman out of the way. We saw she was throwing a D3 there. Sanna shaping this one a little bit more aggressively out of the hand on Anheuser. And you see just a bit shy, although certainly an uphill birdie look, very uphill though. She's going to have to throw this one and doesn't give it the height, does make progress up the hill, but certainly not enough to feel that she's in a comfortable spot, is able to give it a chance, unfortunately a bit low. I think the second shot there, really the only one that got her in a lot of trouble. We go to Jenni now. In what she thought was likely a completed birdie just off the band. Marie with a chance to put on the pressure, and she does just that, securing the birdie, getting herself 1 stroke closer to Jenni, now only 2 strokes separating them. In first and second, respectively. Rachel in third place, looking to make a push as well. And such a bad break there. Also finding the band, and her disc just says bye-bye. Continuing to roll down the hill. It still has not stopped moving. And just a heartbreak. She opts to simply abandon the throw, take the penalty stroke, and make the putt. I think that is wise, a good decision, because even from down there, it's unlikely she could get closer than where she already was. And I think she'll be all right taking that bogey. All things considered, I'd say a bad break combined with a slightly too high of a putt. We'll see her hold her head high into hole 11. 78-meter par 3, a slightly flatter fairway, let's say. Of course, with a significant slope left to right, not looking flat at all, but in terms of altitude from the tee to the basket, not as severe as some of the other holes. You see this late gap to contend with between the trees. A lot of players will also opt to go up and around with the hyzer line, try to crash into the hill almost perpendicular with that late hyzer fade. I think decision making a big factor here on this hole. Disc selection and choice of line. Marie continues to hold the box now, gaining momentum. This one looks slightly overturned and a little bit too low to fight over the trees, but that branch does kick her straight down. I think a manageable par from there. Jenni, however, with a chance now to capitalize, playing that big hyzer. And she hits the hill in a great spot, but as always, the risk of rollaway here. Bad break for Jenni off what looked to be quite a well-placed shot. Rachel just launches this one well over that tree and sits on the hill. She'll be putting laterally back towards the basket. Did send it long, but a fine spot and good to sit down there. We see Sanna with a great straight line. Really well crafted there. Just a pure hit of the tunnel down the middle. You see, she doesn't quite have the power to go up and over. So that direct line gets quite a good shot. Jenni forced to pitch up there with no real look to the basket. Marie with another chance here, although very difficult one. She pleads with the disc to get a little bit closer. And Sanna with a bad break as well, as this continues to move. Effectively taking par out of play as she's further away now than she was on the previous shot. This is her third. Just looking to salvage a bogey, put this close. And that's still, with that low ceiling, kind of a tricky putt. We see Rachel here for birdie to push on this back nine and just off to the right. But fortunate to settle and still a very salvageable par. Solid bogey save for Sanna there. A little bit of a stressful putt, considering she already rolled away on an approach once. You really have to clear the mind. Rachel there. Solid par save. Although she is currently 7 strokes behind Jenni, who we see put that in for par as well. With only 7 holes to go. Now or never for these players. Marie maintaining pace there with that par putt, only 2 strokes behind Jenni. The beautiful and daunting hole 12. From an elevated tee, players must try and land their disc as softly as possible on this plateau with the basket perched at the very back in the center. Really a demanding hole. What looks to be potentially quite a simple spike hyzer turns very quickly into trouble, as it's very difficult to land and settle on that top plateau. Anything that lands on the top with the first touch often skips or rolls off, as it's very densely packed, and anything that catches the side of the hill is unlikely to fight its way up to the top. So really nearly impossible hole to park. The forehand hyzer playing very nicely if you have it. We saw that from Marie there. She's really only been using it for approaches, but pulled it out there. Came up a little bit short, but I think a safe throw. As we see Jenni catch the crest. And that picks up speed. We see that take off down the right side. She was less than a meter from hitting the top plateau, and you see the extent of the possible punishment there by this very tricky hole. This looks like a great nose down overstable angle from Rachel. She'll need to stop the disc in time though. Unclear, she goes just a little bit left of the basket. Sanna, I think, with a lot of experience on this hole, knows the width, is playing for the 3. And Jenni here, a critical moment as Marie is in quite a safe place. To get this 3 from way down there would be monumental. And it was tough to see exactly how much progress she made. This is Marie here, able to just pitch up. And she's done so very nicely. Less wind than the previous days here in round 3, and these players are all for it. We saw Rachel also go quite far down. Get her way up there. Sanna now combating the green. Jenni for par. That is a great moment there. Really critical to try and maintain that 2-stroke lead. Did not let Marie smell blood. And Sanna actually with a solid par save. I had mentioned that I thought she was just playing for the 3, but did give herself a pretty good birdie chance, although not capitalizing on it. Really, in no danger at all throughout her play on this hole. Came close to it with that missed putt, but still close enough to secure the 3. And Marie as well, as we look to put together 3 pars and I believe the bogey for Rachel here. Left herself just a little bit longer out than she wanted for that par putt and a touch low on the green. Here we are on hole 13, a 165-meter par 4. Quite a short distance for par 4, especially considering the elevated tee. As a result, this hole comes in as one of the easiest on the course in terms of birdie percentage, particularly for these players on the lead card. They are certainly able to secure the birdie and potentially even give themselves a long eagle look. We saw Rachel get some huge drives on some of these longer par 4s, shorter par 4s rather, and long par 3s. Her power off the tee, really solid this tournament. And Marie able to generate a lot of spin and speed out of the hand from that standstill. We see that on display there. Got it to ride up to flat. Came out at the end. Looks to be about 40 or 50 for her to the green. Very manageable, and it's nice to end on that left side. A good lift there for Jenni as she gets that turned over to the right. The only thing you really want to avoid is being in or behind those huge bushes. And I think really fortunate for Jenni, it looks like she kicked out to the open side behind them. And I believe will not be obstructed. We see Sanna pushing this nice nose down flight, fading just in time to center fairway. Just a very nice controlled placement shot from her. Rachel, I think, looking to rip this one, and even with a good drive, she turns her back before it's complete. And look at that line. A great flex down the middle. Good percentage of the flight on turn, reliable fade at the end. That's the type of progress that you want to make off that tee shot. Sanna here a little bit wide on the approach, but certainly manageable. She's shown some good confidence on the putting green. And Marie as well, leaving herself at an uncomfortable range, considering Jenni here exactly in quite a fortunate position. Really well done to put herself just a few meters away there, putting uphill. And Rachel so far off the drive, she's able to simply step putt to try and secure her birdie here. Oh, and Marie, so close to finding that. Does settle close though, going to be a tap-in bogey for her. Sanna, tap-in par rather for Marie, as this is a par 4. Sanna with a good birdie. Hole 13 in this third and final round. Played as the second easiest of the day after hole 3 and averaged 3.6 as a par 4. We can see, particularly for players who have the power that Rachel does, you saw just how close she could get off the tee with a controlled golf shot. But also a little bit too long to play as a par 3. A fun hole right between that 3 and 4 spot. We then go to hole 14, one of the most treacherous and most difficult holes. A 75-meter island. We see this raised plateau marked with stakes on all sides. Players will need to stick the island to avoid the penalty stroke. Sloping significantly right to left, it does play more naturally for the forehand hyzer to try and dig into the hill, as similar to the other right to left slopes, backhands that find a little bit too much skip, fade, or height can very quickly disappear down the left side. Jenni now successfully taking the box, hitting the lone guardian, and not crossing inbounds. Sanna going wider after seeing that, but this is flipped up to flat and not going to come back left in time. It's both of those players unable to make the island. We see Rachel here, comfortable with the forehand drives off the tee, using that stability and looking beautiful from our angle. Assuming the disc sat down, that should be a very good birdie for Rachel. I believe absolutely parked. As Marie finds the same fate as Jenni to the same tree. Those backhands really needing to go wide enough to get around that. And Sanna playing with fire. Floats one a little too much and she finds OB again. Jenni as well. This hole is playing as a hazard. So these players are playing their lie with the penalty stroke for both Jenni and Marie there. That is their second throw, but third stroke, they'll be left with a bogey putt. And Sanna here, I believe for a 5, having gone double OB, she'll pitch up for a tap in 6. Honestly, I like to see that from Jenni. She's 3 strokes up. That could very quickly compound into a multiple stroke swing. And I think knowing her position, realizing they're already on hole 14, Jenni opting to pitch up and take a 5 as the leader, knowing that this is a putt for 4 from Marie. And Jenni knew she's close, so she could expect her to likely make this. Just like that, she does find herself 1 stroke closer to the leader. Even taking a bogey speaks to the difficulty here of hole 14. Rachel's 2 looking really incredible here in terms of strokes gained against the lead card. Fantastic hole to find the 2 on. Here you see hole 15, a flat 100 meters, par 3. Quite an even shot in terms of altitude. You see this fairway and green sloping left to right, and once again plateaued. A lot of players will err to the side of caution on the right side. A lot of big hyzers coming into play, but being ever so slightly downhill, I think these players really want to hold it to that one angle we saw in previous rounds. Anything that flipped up to flat was likely going too straight and too far to the right. So I think a lot of these players will look to just swing a big hyzer into the hill, try to land even with the basket. Rachel not pleased with that one. Finds an early release and likely an easy 3, but did enter the heart of that bush. Marie gaining a stroke on that last hole to Jenni, only 2 holes back now. Here on hole 15, every single stroke will count, and momentum is certainly in play. This is going to be a big moment here for Jenni. A little bit too much width here, as her disc is fighting left towards the basket, but unable to get up the hill. I think just a simple 3 for Jenni there, although she has shown to have some incredible long distance attacking, especially in the back 9 of round 2. We go to Sanna here. I think certainly favoring more of an aggressive shape here to try and get the distance. She gets that flat released high and right as we see that swing back in and settle quite nicely. She should be able to pitch up from there. Rachel in a really tricky spot, going for the sky scuba. I think that's all she really had. Marie running the hyzer putt around the corner. I think she knows with only 4 holes to go and 2 strokes between her and the leader, she needs to attack. And a very unforced error there for Jenni, as things are going to tighten up a bit. If Marie can make that short putt, Jenni pretty much playing for a bogey now. This is her 3rd. For another stroke on Jenni. That one finds the chains for par there. Sanna with a solid bounce back par there after the troubles she found on hole 14. Great to see her persevere. And Jenni here for bogey to go to +1. Holes 14 and 15 favoring Marie. A very tight battle now going into hole 16. Here we are on hole 16, par 3 at 75 meters, although plays as significantly more. This is extremely uphill with OB wrapped around on all sides. You see the white stakes on the left of your screen just above the blue banner marking the out of bounds left. Anything up and over the fence or to the right is also OB. It's also an interesting hole in that you can sort of choose your shape as you please. Possible to get there on hyzer flat or turnover. I think a lot of players either way will be using at least a little bit of understability to try and fight up the hill, having to throw so nose up to get there. We see from Marie a little bit too low to progress within putting distance. I think just a small chip shot up to the green from there for her. Sanna playing a similar line. You see both of them, particularly with the backhand, just avoiding that OB by all means. Rachel playing that aggressive flex line, and look at that. Really solid line, great distance and great power. She continues to make a push late into this tournament. We see Jenni here. Also a nice line, just a little bit too low, although is slightly closer to be a putting distance compared to Marie. Sanna battles up the hill. That'll certainly be a par opportunity for her. Curious to see if Marie is trying to throw this one in The height and power would suggest not. And Jenni, knowing that, can simply pitch up for the par, knowing that Maria is taking a 3 at best. Rachel for birdie. Sanna with a great putt there. Securing her par. Fans herself off and grabs that putter out of the cage. She's happy to see that one go in. Solid putt here on hole 16 for Sanna Ahlgrén. And Marie Kielas remaining close in second place. A critical putt that. Even those shorter ones late in the rounds, lead card. Really worth giving them your focus. And Jenni, having pitched up, does allow her to simply tap in the par, going into hole 17, retaining her 1-stroke lead. And here you see it. A slightly downhill par 3 at 114 meters. This one once again encouraging players to get a big drive off the tee over the valley as far as they can towards this slightly sloping green. Very common that if anything goes past it, can really amplify the distance you have remaining. A lot of players will try and dig into the hill just before the basket, but of course that still requires a lot of accuracy and power. And Marie with the box actually gives Jenni the advantage of seeing what happens, and a bit too nose down to complete its flight. That will leave her with a lot of distance left to the green, although an open look. Sanna getting a hyzer out there, crashing on into the middle. You can see that there isn't that much flat footing in terms of fairway other than the single walking path on your screen. Rachel definitely going to be attacking, looking like a really nice pushing line, solid nose angle, and fantastic delivery with that D1. Really nicely done by Rachel there. That's exactly what you want. Thrown to perfection. You see Jenni looking to match that line and comes up just a little bit shorter, but in the circle for a birdie. And Marie still having to work for par. Does get her upshot into a good spot. You can see very manageable shot from where she was. That standstill really coming in handy here. The footing quite miserable on a lot of these fairways if you move off the intended path. And Jenni once again chips that one up and says, I don't want to play any games here. I'm going to go to 18, retaining my 1-stroke lead and force Marie, who is likely going to have the box if she can make this putt before Jenni. Rachel, however, with the 2 will take the box, but Marie will throw before Jenni on the final hole, allowing her to see the result and know how aggressive she may or may not need to get. However, as a par 4, or 5 rather, hole 18, the drive is not always indicative of the result of the hole, needing a lot of throws to get there. Jenni puts that one in for par as we move to the last and final hole of the final event of the season here in European Pro Tour Disc Golf. This is where it will be decided. Hole 18, a 201-meter par 5. A lot of players will opt for a series of placement shots, likely on hyzer, potentially looking for a little bit of flip up to reduce the distance. We saw even a solid eagle bid from Rachel the previous day. She is able to get there. This is what it all comes down to now, as the scores are being put in and confirmed. Rachel with a great birdie on 17, going to get us started here on 18. Absolutely smushing this D1. That'll be in a great spot. The more left you go off the tee, it really opens up that left to right angle on the second shot. And very important that Marie try and push for the birdie here, if not more. And not quite flip that one up to flat. I'm a bit surprised to see Marie not go more aggressive, potentially with a slight turnover, as Rachel is 3 strokes behind in third place and Jenni is only 1 ahead. I think she really needs to push as much of that risk reward as she can, because even a bogey or double bogey would likely retain her second place, but an eagle or birdie would go a really long way. Jenni here. Quite a solid looking drive, but she will fall a little bit into that gully. We'll have some altitude to play with. Sanna there pitching up nicely to the corner, going to allow her a straight look to the basket on her third shot. Still in play for the birdie. Marie playing another hyzer. Neither of her shots too aggressively shaped. I think she is accepting a birdie at best. And Rachel missing it. That is in fact playing as a Mando. If you were unaware, players need to go left of that around the corner. Unable to play the direct line to the basket, and unfortunately Rachel will have to go from the drop zone. Jenni with a good placement shot to give herself a look to the basket. And Sanna, really well done. That will be a birdie putt for her on the final hole of this tournament. Critical moment here. Jenni does fade a little bit down and right. A tricky putt. If Marie can put this close. Oh, and as the door opens for Marie, a very errant upshot, placing her behind that huge bush. Tree even. Rachel from the drop zone gives it a shot. I believe going to be putting in for her par. Marie here needing to throw this in. And just like that, she hits the pole, going to be tapping in for a par. All Jenni needs to do is lay up and drop it in. She does not need to run this. Just match the grade of the hill and ensure you don't roll away. The crowd understanding the stakes here as we go to Sanna. A chance to birdie on the final hole. Rachel to start off this potential par frame. Looking downhill. This would be a great moment to solidify her putt at the end of a tournament where she really had great throwing. Very nice for her to make that final putt. And I think it's evident for Rachel where the work needs to go into the off season, but she has many parts of her game that she can really be proud of, particularly at the end of such an impressive season. And just like that, with this tap in, your EPT All-Star FPO champion, Jenni Karppinen. Fantastically played. Really fought the entire way. An incredible back nine of round 2, putting her in the lead position for this third and final day, and able to secure it by just a single stroke. Amazing sportsmanship there by the competitors, celebrating each other. And Mike there as well, tour director, offering her this EPT All-Stars trophy. At the end of a long season, Jenni Karppinen coming out on top. An incredible moment after what was really an exciting season of coverage here on MDG Media. As we take a look at the final standings, Jenni Karppinen, your leader at 1 over par, Marie just behind her at 2 over par, Rachel in third place at 5 over, solidifying your top 3 positions. We appreciate all of your support and viewership throughout this incredible season of coverage. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You can even find us on Patreon if you would like to continue supporting European disc golf coverage. It really means the world to us. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll see you at the next tournament.